almost feel like producing is a better extension of writing than the directing is. The directing adds a whole new layer and a new perspective that I love that comes on top of the writing, whereas the producing is sort of overseeing every aspect of bringing that script to life from every single stage of the thing and seeing that it gets the right team. And so producing, I feel like, is actually a really natural extension of writing. And in television, that's literally true, is the producers, executive producers, showrunners is all extensions of writing. And the directors, they pop in and out.
Yeah.
They'll pop in and direct an episode. Even the actors sort of understand this world and the characters and that sort of thing much, much better than the directors do. And actors, for that reason, in television are given a lot of that respect because they've been there for it all and they know a lot about it. And so, but in television, it's the producers who are really driving the creative vision.
Showrunner. Showrunner. Is that a title you take upon yourself?
Showrunner is a wrriter producer, and it is. I'm a co-showrunner right now with Kynan and Justin and others on The Wayfinders. So
yeah, no. In fact, I heard like Leonard Nimoy with his iconic Spock character of Star Trek, like he would have directors come in that would sometimes violate what he thought and the character should do. And a director in the script, he was supposed to punch somebody. And he's like, I don't think Spock would punch somebody. And so he came up with the Vulcan neck pinch because he thought that would be a Vulcan way of taking somebody out.
Yeah, that's TV.
That's TV. But he was surprised like how he felt it was his job to protect the Spock character because he was the only consistent one there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So no, that's really exciting. Honestly, I feel, especially since TV, a lot of the action is in TV nowadays, that showrunners are kind of becoming the celebrities of the film industry.
Yeah, when we made the Mythica films, we got a little bit of, this is, starting in 2013, and we were conceiving that in 2012, 2013. And this long form of storytelling, which was, we're going to make 3 Mythica movies, and actually 5 were planned out right from the beginning. And from a writing perspective, that longevity, that character development, that ability to tell a story over a longer period was energizing from a writing perspective. You didn't have to, the movie arc, here we've got to set up the characters, we got to... there's a very strict format for, especially we were making sort of like TV level films, so made for TV almost. And there was a format there. And with Mythica, we didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
We had an ongoing story with ongoing cast and characters. So we were really making television there. We made 5 movies over a period of just, a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah. If it was done more like not in the DVD era, it would have been probably considered a series.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And so we felt like we were making kind of television. And then this whole shift to television came around that
and the
time.
death of the DVD.
And the death of DVD, which was most of the money in the industry, to be honest.
No, it was.
People don't talk about that, but even for the big movies, more than half of the money came from DVD, not from theatrical, not from So as that disappeared and TV came to life, we felt like we were positioned, and we'd practiced on Mythica, this longer format storytelling, and sort of really wanted to get into television at that time. So,
do you think you could re-edit Mythica and release it as a series?
Yeah, we've talked about it.
Just put in some fade in, fade outs, and some dramatic music at the end of an episode.
It's more from a distribution level. That the distributors are like, it's easier to sell as movies still in the independent market.
Okay,
sort of like independently selling TV is harder
because they have to commit to like 5 like big block stuff.
Well, we already have the episodes. So
you
we could recut it and just, syndicate it or something in the streaming world. But they said it's actually still easier to sell as movies. But yeah, we think about that. We say, oh, we could make a 12 episode.
Or even just call them 2-hour episodes.
But one season of TV is actually also really hard to sell unless you say limited series and it makes sense as a limited series. People aren't into one season of TV. They love to hear that there's 3 or something, right? Like that's the better market.
I don't know if what was it? Galaxy, not Battlestar Galactica. Battlestar Galactica, they did like a little mini series first, and then they got the series.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, and I think also the UK markets, they're very used to like a 6-part series
Yeah.
being like released that way. They've done it for decades,
Hmm.
so it's an old format for them. And so I think limited series do better there, but in the US audiences, like some of them also they live in fear that it's going to get canceled and not wrap up properly, and nobody wants to see half of a movie. Like in that sense, nobody
Yeah.
wants to see half of a story. So they've been beaten down by shows that have canceled that they loved, and so
True.
some of them even just say, "I'll just wait until I know there's enough that I can."
Like The First Office, like in many other
Right,
shows that
right,
were canceled that ended up being amazing.
yeah.
Yeah. So, well, that's actually something I was going to ask you about. And this is a larger distribution thing. And we talked to somebody else, but like the, especially in a genre like fantasy, where you've got a very strong, dedicated core group. And like, so fantasy authors, they may not sell many books, but they sell like 20 books to the same person. And the DVD market, it seemed that really worked with that because you could get $16 from one viewer. But with streaming, and I feel there's parallels between the film and the music industry. So I feel like back like in the 90s during the CD era, we had all these subgenres and genres with because we could get so much money from one person with a CD sell. But now a streaming music, it's like all general audience. And so do you feel like pressures like that being in a genre like fantasy that you can't get as much money from your loyal group, or have you found other ways beyond streaming like t-shirt sales, or I don't know?
Well, I mean, fantasy is a special scenario that is fan driven, and finding a group of those fans, and there's different fantasy audiences as well within fantasy. It's it's not all one thing.
Different camps, yeah.
Sword and sorcery fantasy, urban fantasy. There's very different camps, like you say.
Magical realism. Yeah.
And so, I don't want one brush that fits it all, paints it all, but fantasy in general, what's wonderful about it is if you don't offend that audience, they are very supportive, very engaged.
And evangelical, I mean, they'll sell it.
Yep,
They'll sell it to their older friends.
They will. And they're also very forgiving, as long as the earnestness is there about trying to tell that story well and right and put your heart and work into it. If it has the love in it, then they will respond. And they'll forgive that you have a low budget, and they'll forgive that you can't do everything you wished you could.
Yeah.
And that's great. And it can have a life that way.